Have you finished your breakfast yet? Would you like the radio on?
So that's choice on this. What's Tuesday morning? New receptionist. Just for the day, not all the time. Stand by, thanks.
This is BBC Radio Leicester, the time.
Hello and welcome to Radio Leicester. I'm David Hanon, the manager. We're very proud of the fact here that we were the very first of the BBC local radio stations to go on the air. In those days, of course, it was VHF only, and we were very much an experiment. But everybody wanted to get on the act, whether they were local politicians or whether they were just amateur winemakers. Of course, when we began, everything was new and exciting, and you might well see one of the staff rushing out to follow a fire engine to the scene of a fire or something like that. But nowadays, although life's still exciting, we hope it's slightly more professional. Gradually, over the years, our audience has grown and spread. And now that we are firmly on the medium wave, our signal reaches almost every corner of the county. Like most radio stations, we get our biggest audiences for our breakfast show. This is a fast-moving 2.5 hours of news, comment, reviews, interviews, weather, traffic reports, birthday greetings, sport, competitions, and a certain amount of music to give the presenter a moment to catch his breath.
This is BBC Radio Leicester, broadcasting on 95.1 MHz VHF, 188 metres in the median rediffusion, Channel D. Talking of programmes, which we weren't but were about to, programmes later this morning on Radio Leicester. John Mitchell at 9:05 to present the Housewife's Choice regular record request chair, followed at 9:30 by For the Farmer and at 9:45 by From the Ivory Tower. John returns with Home This Morning at 10:05, but there's a change because of it being the bank holiday week at 10:40. In place of our regular coffee break programme, we have an old favourite for school holiday time, the battery-powered steam radio show, a special entertainment for children at home, presented by Paul Thompson.
Of course, the success of the Good Morning Leicester show depends on the newsroom, which produces no less than 15 bulletins every day.
On the air. This is BBC Radio Leicester, the time now 10 minutes to 1. Leicester Today, this is Peter Crankshaw with the morning's news and interviews. The headlines: the County Education Committee's Vice Chairman answers allegations of economic gobbledygook as an excuse to cut spending on schools. Here in the newsroom, we have a staff which are constantly on duty here, a staff which is working from first thing in the morning until quite late in the evening. And apart from local news, we do quite a lot of national news as well. And this is sent up to us from London, and you can see the amount of stuff that we can get in just half an hour. These are news bulletins which are read on network, which we take and we read on the hour. It's called Rip and Read. This is because it's very clear, and you can literally rip it off and then go straight downstairs into the studios and read it. And there's some coming up now. The beauty of this, of course, is that we are completely up to date throughout the whole of the day, and it complements our local coverage. Now, when we have local coverage, we often do our own interviews, and we use this type of machine, which is a tape recorder. It's called a Ewer. They're very compact, they're fairly light, and we can take these out. We don't need to plug them in anywhere. They work from their own batteries. We can go out, we can do an interview, we can come back, and we can play the interview almost immediately on the air. In addition to this, of course, we do have facilities for taking tapes from London, which are sent up to us when we have, for example, local people who in other parts of the country have done something interesting. We want to know about it, and it's sent directly up the line to the newsroom here. So the newsroom certainly is an integral part of the station, and indeed is an important part of the station which we like to think that people do appreciate.
That's fine, thanks. I've just finished recording one episode of our daily consumer programme, which is called the At Your Service spot. It goes out during Good Morning Leicester and Good Evening Leicester, and again at lunchtime. It's one example of community radio in a local radio station, in as much it's a programme that provides a service to the community, rather more, in fact, than it provides a programme. We only get 5 minutes a day programme material out of it, but at the same time, hundreds of people get a good service because we sort out consumer problems for them. The way we work, a listener rings up, they have a problem, we investigate it, try and sort it out, or perhaps if they're in the wrong, you can just explain why they're in the wrong to them. And occasionally out of these jobs, probably about 1 in 10, something comes that if we told the general public about it, it would be something from which they could learn, and we could do a bit of good. And so that's what we do, and look for programme material as we do it. This box contains our current job sheets, and, well, as you can see, we've got just over 100 in there at the moment that we're currently working on, and probably out of those 10, 15 at the most will ever go on the air in actual service.
In the regular weekday pattern, we have great interest in Housewife's Choice, which 4 days a week is a pile of records and a friendly voice.
Good, from Guy Mitchell. Jonathan and David Walford live at 248 Uppingham Road, Leicester. And Jane, Mum, Dad, Jim, Joan, Evelyn on the Highfields Choir would like to send best wishes and lots of love to you. I believe it's your 14th anniversary. Wedding anniversary? I suppose so. Val Dunigan record now, and this is another one that came from the Leisure X exhibition, and says, would you please play this on any day from Mrs. E. Plummer of 33 Cheshire Road, and it's especially for Angela Susan Plummer of 279 Bradgate Road, Anstey. It's alright, it's the right speed. I thought it was the wrong speed remote. Busy trying to set it up. All I have to do to get the records ready is to have a look through the requests and then decide which ones I'm going to play, because we only get about 4 or 5 records in half an hour or 25 minutes. So simply, we try to get a wide selection of, say, a male vocalist group, female vocalist, old record, new one. But we like to sort of try and feel it as we go along. So if you feel that this program needs speeding up, you play a faster record. Or then you want to slow it down, you play a slow record. To a person who lives at, well, I haven't got the address for it, but anyway, they want to hear Frank Ifield singing I Remember You. And it's for George, who's one of the best to everyone. And that's my son-in-law, Mr. George Chapman, of 22 Quennerborough Road, Leicester. And he says, would you please play a Frank Ifield record for him? And it comes from Mrs. Jane Beck. And she says that she listens at 6 o'clock each morning. Whew, what do you want to listen to 6 o'clock in the morning for? I don't know. Gets worse, I think, that, doesn't it? Well, once again, it's almost 9:30, so it's time for me to shut up shop, put all the records back in the record sleeves until tomorrow morning at the same time, 9:05. See you then? Okay, thanks very much for joining me today. Until tomorrow, bye-bye for now.
So on take 1.
Okay, yeah.
You'll see the light of it. I'll back an notes and then...
Right, you do the ident.
Housewife's Choice was presented by John Mitchell.
The programme actually goes out in the air, so let me now bring you behind the scenes and introduce you to Wendy, who looks after the Graham Library, and also, of course, sorts out the records for me to use when I go on the air. Wendy, what happens, in fact?
Well, what I have to do is sort out the requests that we get in, and we have a Love from Wind programme in the evening and a Housewife's Choice programme in the morning. I just get the records out of Housewife's Choice, and what I have to do is go through them all. And now this one here, she wants Amazing Grace or anything by Max Bygraves. What I have to do is just get Amazing Grace out and clip this to it, ready for John to pick up in the morning.
You want that. Now, what happens if we get a difficult one?
Well, if we've got a difficult one, something that we haven't got in the library, then we have to send down to London for it. And what we have to do is, if we want it for the following day, something like that, we can ring London up in the morning, tell them what we want, and they'll get it sent down to us with the data post service that we have.
For many people, the highlight of the week must be Sunday morning when Morgan Cross comes right up your street with the radio car.
Morgan Cross, and I've been doing Right Up Your Street for, let's see, nearly 4 years now, come September. And it's a programme that's really where the public are the stars, because it's my job to go out in the radio car every Sunday morning, go to a house. we have various ruses for getting the public to come along and take part in the programme. But once we get in the house, the people at home are live every Sunday morning between 10:30 and midday, and they are the stars. We have questions which my very good friend George Paul sets, 5 questions, all with a local flavour, and away we go. And then it's a straightforward competition between the people at home and the people at home on the telephone, and then we compete one against the other. So we do have a lot of fun on that programme. It sounds perhaps a bit dry like that, but as it's off the cuff, we have no script for an hour and a half. Anybody who's ever listened to the programme will be quite aware of that. But we do have a lot of fun on that programme, and so I've had some surprising things happen to me. I have been attacked by dogs, never by a budgie. A parrot's bitten my finger. Ladies have come up to me in the street, and one lady put her hand up my jumper one morning, and she really took a fancy to me, and she didn't even realise that we were on the air. That's the sort of thing that happens in Right Up Your Street, and I love doing it, and I think a lot of people like listening to it.
As far as it goes in the studio, I've got the signature tune in here, I've got the location clue for where the radio car is on tape here, and my first 2 records. And while all this is happening in the studio, Morgan's out in the radio car, and Stephen, who'll be sitting next door in the operations room, he'll be checking the signal from the radio car and making sure the quality's okay, and generally establishing contact with Morgan and making sure that both the studio and the radio car are going to do the same things at the same time, because although the show is worked out to an extent and that we do have a running order, we do tend to depart from it fairly often, usually after about 5 minutes. But as I say, the motto on this show is when in doubt, play a disc. So as you can see, I've always got something to fall back on. If, for example, a tape breaks or the cartridge machine blows up in a cloud of smoke, I've still got a couple of records to rely on.
Right, we've got an area on top of the building which picks up the radio car. At the moment, the radio car's going towards OB, so we line up the map. It means that we've got to move the aerial round to about 130 degrees, and we do that with this little relay apparatus.
And a very good morning to you from me, Morgan Cross. In case you were wondering what that was all about, this morning in the radio car we have, as well as George Paul, members of the Braunston Cine Society, who are just commencing work on a sequel to the $6 Million Man TV series, which is all about local radio and called Lend Us a Quid and I'll Buy You a Half Man. Seriously though, you still have to find the radio car, a white estate car, which is parked somewhere in a Leicester street.
Good morning, Radio Leicester. Oh, yes. Can I have your number there, please?
Come to your house, then. We'll get the car in fine trim and get the wires and cables pulled into number 64 Shirley Street. That's the home of the Lace family. So we shall be right on top form there. Right. What do you think about this? We're actually being filmed at the moment doing this for the Epic for Servat Croatian television, or whatever it was. Is that right? Yes, the lads are there. Yes, so we're going to be on Immortal film, I think. Immortal film. But I noticed on the wall, we must just talk about this, Pat, because you've got a few doggy hairs on your jumper, I noticed.
Yes, I have.
And you've got a lot of prizes on the wall. Now, and there's also something that says you specialise in Cocker Spaniels and Blue Roads. I know what Cocker Spaniels are. What are Blue Roads?
They're a blue and white Cocker Spaniel.
Oh, I see.
They're dark, but when they come...
We've got some stinkers for you this morning, which always pleases me.
Go on.
Question number 1. Significance for the Hackney carriage trade in Leicester. Now, what is that significance?
1834, 1839, and 1930 all have a special significance for the Hackney carriage trade in Leicester. What's the significance?
Well, what is the significance?
What is the significance?
Don't you know?
No.
Good. Hopeless.
Right.
Question number 2 got me puzzled when I read it in a letter from Mick Hartsall of Woodstock Close. In fact, I wouldn't have guessed it, but he sent me the answer as well, and it goes like this. Name the 4 local living people who fit the following. 1 went and did it, 1 did it and went, 1 did it and came, and 1 came and did it. Who are they and what did they did?
We're going to have to be careful with the answer to that one. In the meantime, let us move on now with a number, a weather forecast, you might say, from the Kings.
Are you free? Well, Can you tell me? Yes, because we are on Radio Leicester this morning.
Right,
answering all the questions, if we can.
Well, they don't know, you see. So if we sort of say, well,
Is it
female? What? Is it a female?
Well, if you
Yeah, you didn't hear that, was it? We said,
would you like him to repeat?
right, we'll have her then. I think we have a caller on the line, to Leicester 2733, who I'm now going to talk to. Hello?
Hello?
Who am I talking to?
This is Natalie Cooper.
Oh, hello, Natalie. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Are you going to help us, do you think?
Well, I hope so. I only have one answer.
Yeah.
And that...
So you think in a hansom cab which was patented in 1834
by John Hanson.
by John Hanson, yes.
Was used in Hinckley Carnival quite recently.
He's doing very well in the Desert Song at the moment, I
Is
believe.
it?
Yes,
Good,
John
I
Hanson,
didn't
yes.
know that.
So it's quite fascinating the way the questions come in. Sometimes it's a case of people stopping me in a pub and having a chat. Samko the fasting man just come up. Somebody pays a copper at a time to go and see him, and a chap tells you all about it, but the snag is there's an awful lot of research into it. A great deal of it I get from my own collection of local history. Newspaper cuttings that I've kept over the years. We've got one coming up soon on the new birds that have been bought, the pigeons. Very famous pigeons been bought into Leicestershire. Everybody knows about it today, but I've clipped it out of the paper, and it'll crop up again in about 12 months' time when I hope everybody's forgotten about it. But somebody will remember somewhere, and they'll come up with the answers. Now and again, people write in with the questions, something that's triggered their memory, and the problem is to research the answer to have it absolutely correct. We're very fortunate, really. It's very, very rare indeed that anyone has complained that the answer was wrong. It does happen, but it's thankfully a very rare occurrence.
Cheers. Well done. It's all right for you. I've never seen any of these.